Okay, it is October 3rd, Big Bash week. Going to bring you a Lake of the Ozarks fishing report, kind of our projections on what it's going to take to win this the bash this fall, and obviously several lures that I think I would pick if I was fishing it to try to land me not only the bass that's going to win this, but money fish. And money fish, I'm going to say, as tough as it's been, and as very few big fish that's been brought in, I wouldn't doubt if upper threes, 380s, 390s, and low fours will cash some checks this week. So, there's plenty of those fish in this lake. 3 to 5 pounders. There's just a ton of those in Lake of the Ozarks. Anything over 5 is a good fish. Anything over 6 is a really good fish here at the Ozarks. We had a big event down here last week, and why I bring that up is because we had a variety of anglers from across the country. Guys that like to fish shallow, power fishermen. Guys that like to finesse fish. Guys that like the live scope, you name it, they were here last week. And, everybody caught fish, but there was very few really big fish. I think there might have been 3 fish over 6 pounds, and just a handful of 5 pounders, and everyone else, we're catching those 2.5 to 3.5, 3 3/4. And if you could put 5 of them together, for 3 days, you finish pretty high in that particular tournament. So I bring that up because, obviously the conditions really haven't changed a whole lot, since last week. And they're not going to change the rest of this week. I think it's going to be high in the upper 80s today. I can feel it's warming up out there. Right now, we've had a couple of cool nights. It was 40 something the night before. This morning it was in the mid to upper 50s. So even though we don't have a major cool down, or we haven't had a drastic cool down in the weather, the fish are still going to progress into their more of a fall feeding pattern. Basically stocking up, fattening up, feeding up prior to the winter like they always do, to kind of give them the weight, nutrition, and what have you, to kind of make it through some of these harsh winters. But the bass in general are still scattered quite a bit. You can catch bass right now from the very backs in 6 inches of water, and you can catch them out in brush piles in 25 foot of water. Which fish are going to bite on which day, and does a pattern hold up day after day after day? Not very often in the fall, and this is no different. But basically, what I'm getting at is you can catch a bass to cash a check in the bash, especially this year, anywhere on the lake, whatever arm you choose to fish. There is no magical arm right now. There's no magical area, and magical baits. That's kind of, I'm going to say, all around, but it's also kind of falls within the, kind of perimeter of what we would call fall cover water patterns. And this is no different this year. So, baits that I would use and really concentrate on to catch the fish to win a tournament like this or cash a check, are baits that you're not going to catch a lot of fish, but if you do catch a fish on one of these baits, it'll probably be a weigher, or the odds are it's going to be a weigher fish that's going to get you some money in the bass, compared to if you're fishing a 5-fish tournament and you're trying to catch 13 to 16 pounds, which is your 2 3/4 to 3.5 pounders, which is great for a tournament right now, but it's not going to do you a whole lot of good in this particular tournament. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a topwater of some sort, because these bigger bass, they start feeding up towards the banks, whether it be a flat bank, a steep bank, a bank with shelves on it, or bigger boulders, maybe riprap, and even some pea gravel stuff. I've caught some stuff on pea gravel, which is kind of odd. Other than I think in the fall, the bass kind of go through a temperature deal, like they kind of think about us like spawning, because that temperature is getting down, getting around spawning conditions, even though they're not going to spawn. I think something metabolism or mentally goes on in their head that tells them that the water temperature is this. I need to go look for spawning areas, even though they're not going to spawn. I just think they kind of go through something like that every year. I see it every year. So there's fish on every types of banks. One thing that I will say that I really would look for, I looked for it last week a lot, is when I'm fishing topwaters or main lake stuff, especially main lake or secondary stuff, steeper stuff, where a lot of fish, they're living deep still, but they'll move up really shallow and feed. They might feed for 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours around noon, and then again right before dark, and then maybe throughout the day. They key in for whatever reason. A lot of it is the shad and what the shad are doing. A lot of times, we'll go out this time of year, and some mornings the shad are up high and they're active right off the bat. And throughout the night, a lot of bluegill will move up close to the bank and root around and swim around some of these bigger rocks and stuff, around some of these shallower docks, on the shallow sided docks. And they'll get up there and root around. I think the bass move up there and feed on them. Obviously the crawfish come out at night. The bass get up there at night and they feed on them. And then in the early morning light, early morning hours, they stay up there and they continue to feed. So obviously that's a really good time to throw some topwater stuff up shallow, right up on these rocks, and bring it away as if it's a bluegill or a big shad, or something coming off of the bank that's going to get their attention. So I was probably my number one thing in the fall that I like to throw. It's been consistent for well over 30 years. It's still catching them here. It's going to catch them for a long time. Through this particular bait back in the 80s. I caught a couple of my better fish on it last week, and not necessarily early. I mentioned that afternoon bite. The afternoon bite, I think sometimes in the fall, when I say afternoon, 1 to 3, which a lot of times people think, man, if I haven't caught that fish, the day's going on, I'm probably not going to catch them. I wouldn't agree with that, because a lot of big fish are caught in the afternoons, especially in the fall. The shad get up, they get active. The bass get up, they get active. And one of the best baits that I have found for the past 30 years, like I said, is just a 3/4 ounce blackhead gold blade crack-a-gator head knocker buzz bait. This bait right here, it just calls them up. It's something about it. There's been a lot of companies trying to copy this, mimic it. And they, some have come close, but none have perfected the bait like crack-a-gator has. A lot of things, the wire, there's a lot of little secrets in this bait, that makes it perform the way it does. Obviously everyone knows you can make it be as aggressive as you want with how it hits the head, or not hit the head. You can tune this thing to run right, left. And it's got good quality hooks. When you get a fish hooked on it, you usually get them in the boat, so that's kind of why the buzz bait's my number one choice. It'll also work fairly effective when the water gets a little rougher, whether it be boat waves or windy waves, windy banks. I've caught a lot of fish when that water gets a little rougher by throwing that buzz bait, letting it clack on that head, quite a bit. Couple little things I will point out about it that I like to do, little tricks. Some people may know it, some people may not, but they're little things. Obviously we know how it's built. It's 90, level out, plumb up. level back across. That's what creates it hitting that head. Okay, there's a couple little things you can do to this bait. Obviously, you can adjust the arm up and down, hit left and right. One thing I like to do is take these blades and the round bend of the blade and tweak those out, almost like you're going to straighten that out, and that lifts that bait just a little further. So on each rotation, one of them will hit, one of them won't. And if you want to fine tune it, that's just one of the little things I like to do with the blade of the buzzbait, is that round, like you can see it's round, is straightening it out just a little bit, or just tweaking it just a little, and you'll get a whole different sound out of it that may call up a fish, where just a standard bait out of the box may not. So, that's my number one pick as far as a big fish bait in the fall. I throw it on 50-pound braid. This is an old Falcon Expert. This is an old rod. And just a fairly cheap old energy, quantum energy reel. Not too fancy about a buzzbait rod and reel, other than you want it pretty stout, and a good solid rod. I'm throwing that, like I said, on big rocks, ledgy stuff, anywhere you see this real thick concentration of green moss, because that moss is what's bringing the shad up there. It brings the bluegill up there, and as they're up in there feeding on that stuff, then the bass are up there feeding on them. So it's just the food chain is how that works, So main lake, secondary stuff, extremely effective. You can go down open banks, throw this thing over cables, under catwalks, laydowns, concrete pillars, anything. There's an ambush point for these bass, or somewhere for them to hide. Shadows and docks are good. And it just gives the bass somewhere to position themselves to come out and feed on these shad or bluegill or smaller fish or whatever they're going to eat. You probably, the odds of catching a great big fish, a fish over 5 pounds, out in the open is not as good as up next to a piece of structure or a big odd boulder. A lot of times they dump this riprap up on these banks, for erosion. And not all of the boulders get up where they're supposed to be. Some of them drop off and they're kind of out away from the bank. Or they hammer or they blast for a home, or a new foundation or something right on the bank. And those boulders and stuff roll down these hills, these steeper hills, and they roll into the water. Well, when the water's up, you can't see them, but them big boulders are down there, and those are what these big fish like. They like to be up against something, next to something, and use it as an ambush. So that's always something good to look for, when you're targeting topwater fish. So that's a buzz bait. The other bait's going to be a whopper plopper. This is the black whopper plopper. They've got one size bigger than this, great big one, but you can see this one is about, I believe this one's 5 inches, 6 inches long. This is a great bait. The only problem with like whopper ploppers or choppos and things, a lot of your big fish, if they don't inhale this and get it all in their mouth, they will have a tendency to throw this bait. So it can be pretty heartbreaking sometimes. You see the big fish, they grab it, and they come up and jump, and they start throwing this bait around, and it gets momentum on the bait, a little leverage, and it will throw the bait. But the whopper plopper in black or bone is kind of the only ones I throw. You're going to throw it the exact same place you throw the buzz bait. If the water's a little bit calmer, or just barely a ripple, this seems to work a little better. Same exact setup, this old Falcon rod, 7-foot heavy rod, 50-pound braid, same reel, 7-to-1 reel. Nothing real fancy about the setup. The deal about the whopper plopper, there's a couple things like the Chapo. I really like the Chapo and the sound the Chapo makes. It stays consistent. It's got a plastic tail which stays consistent makes the sound better, a little higher pitched sound. But you can see this one, it's broke. Just like this one, it's broke. So the Chapo makes a better sound. I like them better. They come with better hooks, but they break easy if you hit the rocks, you hit the docks, you hit the cables, the catwalks. They break. So it's one of the deals. It's kind of like a mega bass jerk bait. They're really good baits, but they have a tendency to break. So the Whopper Plopper, it's got its tail is made out of rubber, and it bends and it flexes. So it's a lot more forgiving if you hit right on the rocks or a catwalk or one of them concrete pillars or something. It won't break, but it tends to lose its higher pitched sound, or sound that I believe really pulls these fish to the surface. So sometimes you kind of gotta adjust that, bend that thing in. A lot of times I'll take it and I'll heat it up in some boiling water or lighter or something. Heat it up, bend that thing back and hold it, or dip it in some ice cold water and kind of reform that tail, and it'll work quite really good for a while again, until it kind of loosens up and loses its effectiveness. It won't throw the bubbles, it won't gurgle as well. But the Whopper Plopper kind of started all this. It's still a great bait. Sometimes I will change the hooks to a little smaller diameter, round bend, like a Gamakatsu makes a good one, Mustad makes a good one. But if you're having trouble, you may switch out some hooks. But other than that, very effective, extremely good big fish bait. This tournament's all about big fish. So that's my number 2 choice. Number 3 choice for Topwater is going to be the old school, old fashioned, bone colored hidden 1-knock spook. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you've seen these bait protectors covers. These are great. This is a Daiwa brand. I think there's other one. It's clear, so it allows you to put it over your baits and still see what you got in there, so you don't have to peel across or apart to see what bait you're pulling out of your rod box. But like I said, this is just a 1-knock spook, standard size. I replaced the hooks on them. Some of them come with some good quality hooks you don't have to mess with, but other ones come with, I'm not really sure what brand. They almost look like the cheaper Eagle Claws, but you can tell when you look at it if it's a good quality hook or not. But you definitely need good quality hooks on these baits. This spook, this will work the exact same areas, except for it's a slower walking bait, so it looks wounded and stays in the strike zone longer. It gets above their head, and a lot of times it'll pull them out from a distance. As you working that, you can work it, you can stop it, you let it sit there, work a little bit, make some ripples, let them dissipate, start it up again. Shallow brush piles, it's extremely effective around shallow brush piles, lay downs, things like that, where you can throw on top of it or right to the side of it, work the right side, left side, bring it right through the branches sometimes, bring it up to the brush, and then work it past it. It's a good bait to call out fish that are in there and don't necessarily want to be overly aggressive and come out and chase something like a buzzbait or a Whopper Plopper or a Chapo. So the spook, it's notorious catching big fish. You got the pencil popper, the green fish, several baits, walking baits, popping baits are going to be real similar to the spook. I just like the spook. I've caught a lot of good fish on it throughout the years. It's kind of a confidence thing. You can see this one's almost wore through on the sides. I don't know what I'm going to do when Old Faithful gets, wears through and it starts leaking. I've got some little red gills I kind of colored on there. It's just I replaced one of the eyes. But this thing has been through the battles, and it has caught some fish. It's just one of those baits that, as long as fishing, evolves and progresses, this bait still catches them. Just like the buzz bait, just like the jig, just like a rubber worm. Those baits still catch fish. So that's pretty much our Topwater choices. Then I'm going to go with something big bait, not necessarily on the surface, just below the surface when fish don't want to break the surface or come to the top. You know, there's different baits that we've been using. This is another bait I used last week. Didn't catch, I think I caught 2 fish on it, but they were good fish. And this is just a big glide bait. This is that big Spro brand. It is the KBD Chad Shad 180. And they've got about 4 different colors. They got a trout, they've got a bone, they've got this one here. I just call it shad color. You can see it looks just like a shad, the big eyes. And you can let this, you can throw up to the bank. I like to throw it to the bank and work it off that bank pretty quick. When I say work it, you just kind of reel your reel pretty quick, or you can let it hit and pull your rod. And that thing will swim off that bank just like one of these big shad that they like to feed on. And then you can just you can work it real slow. You just stop your reel. You can reel it real slow. And that thing has different actions. It'll just swim, it'll dart. You can start and stop it. If you start and stop it, when you stop it, it'll continue to glide. Maybe glide under docks, around brush. But it's just an extremely good bait for big fish. You don't catch, believe it or not, this is a big bait. You will catch a 2-pounder on this, Kentucky's. But the majority of fish that come up and hit this are usually 4 pounds or better, and some giants. You'll see a lot of followers. You'll see a lot of them swipe it. They'll headbutt it. You know, a lot of times when they come up to hit this, they're inhaling this thing. And if they get the whole thing in their mouth, you're good. You're probably going to get them in. It's kind of like the Whopper and the Chapo and stuff. You get one, the hook's in the back or something. Sometimes they'll throw it. But either way, it's a very good, it's going to be right up there with the top baits to win a big bass, just because of its action, what it resembles, what it imitates, and how big bass this time of year like a big bait, you know, for their appetite. So this here, now, I throw this on fluorocarbon, and I'll throw it on 17 minimum, usually 20, 25 pound test. It's a big bait. There's no finessing to this. You're throwing it out. You're trying to make after cast and bring alongside docks, shallow cover, big rocks, big boulders, same stuff, same traditional stuff where these big fish move up out of the deep water. They feed and they slide back down. In that deeper water, when it warms up or the water gets rough from boat traffic or what have you. Now, if the wind picks up and we got real windy days, this is a productive bait throughout the day alongside docks, you know, similar to like a spinnerbait. You know, it really works good when it's windy, because I think the bass tend to feed better, a little more aggressive, come out a little further, and will attack a bait. I think the noise from the wind, the wave movement, these fish aren't as keen or, you know, as leery to our baits, because our boat's there, they see us moving, and they're just more likely to attack those baits in the wind. You know, I'm talking about that. You know, another bait, a spinnerbait. A spinnerbait is a big fish bait. It always has been, probably always will be. This has been around forever. It's just a big, this is a 3/4 ounce. This is a custom bait I had made. You know, double willow leaves, a white gray skirt, a little chartreuse head, kind of imitates shad, but also has a little bit of chartreuse to imitate bluegill. You know, same thing, up around the big rocks, on a shallow laydown. You can't hardly beat a spinnerbait over a shallow brush pile. You know, 4 foot of water or less, shallow docks along them shallow corners. Like I said, laydowns that you can kind of see them. They start on the bank and they run out, you know, maybe out in the 5, 6 foot of water. You can run this thing right over top of them. You can let it run down by them, bring it over the top of them, kill it, let it fall. Windy corners of docks, big docks sitting out over deeper water. You see a lot of bigger shad out working around them docks. Spinnerbait's a great bait. It puts out a lot of flash, a lot of vibration. It's got the one big single hook along with your trailer, that if you get them hooked on this, you're probably going to get them in the boat. That's another really good high percentage hookup and landing the fish bait. So a big spinner bait like that, there's a lot of brands out there that probably, like I said, this is a custom one. Right now, the E-Factor spinner baits, they have every color combination, every blade combination that you could possibly ever want. Right now, I'm going to say that's probably the best spinner bait on the market right now is a E-Factor one. You can find them everywhere. Of course, the Fitz Fishings down here, they're loaded up with them. Big willow leaf blades, different size, colors, skirt colors, good quality components, good quality hooks. You know, there's other spinner baits out there that, you know, work well too. Some of them have some flaws with their wire, and hook quality is always something we always look for. Whether it be a spinner bait, a jig, top, whatever it is, you know, your hook quality, that's the only thing separating you and the fish a lot of times. So a big spinner bait is a big deal. Another one, it doesn't get a lot of attention, but it's a big crankbait, and it's a big shallow square running crankbait. This one is a 6 cents. There's a lot of companies make it. I like this 6 cents. It comes with super quality hooks, extremely good paint job. You can take it right out of the box and start using it compared to, there may be other baits that maybe have a better look, but they send them out with hooks that aren't as good as the bait, which never makes any sense to me, except, you know, hooks are expensive, and they may be trying to cut cost, where like this particular bait, they put good quality hooks on to begin. But you can see this is a giant square bill. Looks just like a shad, big eyes, shad color, good quality hooks. You can throw it, you kind of parallel the bank and let this thing run down and bounce off of them rocks, hit them rocks, deflect. It'll hit them cables, roll over cables, shallow dock, same exact stuff, except for it'll get down there, you know, 3 to 5 foot of water for some of these fish that are feeding on shad that aren't on the surface. Maybe crappie, and don't want to come up to the surface and bust topwater, or maybe they've seen topwater. But this is a bait that really has good potential to catch big fish, and it catches them too. So, you know, it's just a big square bill. It's a Magnum SB 9.8 is the size of that. The color is shad scale, which makes a lot of sense. Anything in a shad color, I think is going to work. Maybe something with a little chartreuse on it if you're in some dirtier water, you know. But I really like that bait. You know, you're going to have to throw that on, because it's bigger. Traditionally, you know, we throw crankbaits on 12-pound tests. I don't think I'd throw that on 12. I'd probably throw it on, you know, 14, 16-pound tests, so you don't mess up the action. But it's still is not going to break so easy on you, you know, for repetitive cast with that. So you're going to want a medium action rod on that, so you can still cast, but if a fish does grab it, that rod will bend a little bit and give as that fish is pulling, and maybe not pull some of those treble hooks out of their mouth. Same thing with the whopper plopper and the spook. I'm throwing on heavier rods, but I'll back my drag off. There's no reason to have your drag super tight when you're throwing a whopper plopper, a chopo, a spook. You know, they're going to hook themselves. You want to set the hook, get them hooked good, and as they're coming in, as they progress in, start to wear down, you can crank down your drag as you're fighting them, depending on how hard they're fighting. You know, if they're pulling hard and lunging on you, you don't want that drag so tight that they pull them hooks out. So you kind of got to feather and play with that drag a little bit, you know. So that's those baits. The other bait that's extremely productive this time of year, there's a lot of different versions out there, is just a big swim bait of some sort. There's different versions. A lot of them are made now. They've got the treble hook that comes out of the nose, and it has a magnet and holds it up in place. One you stick into place. You can make your own. But that's just a big bait that looks like it's gizzard shad. You can throw it in every condition. That's what I like about it. Super calm, windy, it doesn't matter. You let that thing go just below the surface and you reel it in just really slow. It's very enticing to a big fish. It just wobbles back and forth. You can stop it and you can let it sink to whatever depth you want and start retrieving it in. So that's another really big fish. Actually, I think it was the second day of the tournament. Boy, I was really struggling last week. I had a little bitty limit, and I went out to Main Lake, and I caught a 3 3/4, almost 4-pounder on a buzzbait, and then I caught one over 4 on the big swim bait on Main Lake. Might have been the only 2 bites I got on those baits, but they're both good quality fish and made the difference. So keep that in mind. Obviously, when you're fishing this is not about numbers. I'll fish all day for 3 bites and get one of them in if it's over 5 pounds, 6 pounds, and has potential to, obviously cash a good check or win this tournament. So that's the Topwater. That's kind of mid-range baits. Now we got to go to our bottom baits. These are always going to be productive. And you can keep it very simple there too. Of course, we got a jig. I'm always going to have a jig on the front deck. It's notorious as catching big fish. A lot of, in the fall, I'm going to say a lot of keepers to 5-pounders. It'll catch them all. But this is just a 1/2 ounce crackgator zapper jig, Ozark crawl, brown. I got one here, brown purple scale. That's one of my favorite colors. A lot of people like black and blue. But just put your trailer on it. That's going to kick some water, move it around, get some reaction bites, and flip. These are a lot of shallow flipping. So 5-6 foot of water and less, and flip it and be ready for that bite. As soon as it hits the water line, these fish will sit up tight against these docks, and as soon as that bait enters the water, they run out and grab it. So if you do the old, flip up there, in 4 foot of water, you flip up there and you pull some line out. By the time you engage that reel, that fish has grabbed it, swam 4 foot, and spit it out before you engage your reel or tighten up that line. So it's really important flipping shallow. When you flip, you engage that reel. You start with that rod up high and you lower it as that bait sinks. So you're lowering it down, and the objective is to start up here at 45, 50 degrees when it enters the water. As it sinks, now you're down here at 30 degrees. That's in your best hook setting position. So when you notice that fish has got it, he's 2-3 foot off to the right, or he's picked it up and you feel a little lunge, now you're in a perfect set position. You snap that line, you get a good solid hook set in them, and you're going to get fish in the boat most time on a jig. I use a variety of trailers for movement. That net bait Pecca Chunk is a great trailer. It's extremely effective, but it's very fragile, I guess. You catch one fish on it, it throws a pincher. So we throw that a lot because we like it and it's very effective. But there's other baits out there, more local baits. I'll say it, and we try to support our local dealers and manufacturers, as long as they make good quality baits. I'm not going to sacrifice quality for really anything. Price, who makes it, whatever. I want the best advantage while I'm out there. And this is a cave cricket. Ooh, I'll get it. Cave cricket in a color that is identical to the brown and purple scale that Crackgator makes their skirt. It's got a brown, just like the skirt, and it's got a purple hint to the backs, and it's got a little green on it. I mean, if I didn't know better, I'd say they made that trailer for this jig. We've been throwing that a lot. It's real durable. It kicks real good. That's a really, really good trailer to put on a zapper jig if you're going to flip shallow. Another one that's a really durable one is this is a Bojangles It's called a NOS, N-O-S-S. And it's a beefier trailer. Kind of got a little, it's got a kicking tail, but it's more of a swimmer tail, you know, a little more subtle, but it's got a good bulk to it. And this is a good one to Texas rig. If you just want to rig a 1/4 ounce weight with a 4/0 wide gap hook, and just flip this around shallow docks. That's a really good bait for Texas rigging, along with like a brush hog. A full-size brush hog catches its fair share of big bass in the fall down here in September and October. And this is a full-size brush hog, green pumpkin, red flake. Color, I don't know how important that is, as long as it's green pumpkin and something. You know, I like to throw it on the Crockett Gator Gator Lock jig head. This is the one that's got that wire keeper that goes through your bait and it hooks on the shaft of your hook. It's got a nice weed guard. You can fan that out, spread that out, so it's a more realistic look. Gives you good protection if you're popping that through brush. A lot of times you're flipping this around shallow docks in them empty stalls, or in them stalls where you got a 1, 2 foot of room between the boat and the edge of the docks. Flip it back up in them dark holes and let that thing go down there. I like to chartreuse. Take your chartreuse pin and tip your very end tailors, maybe the tips of the bigger flaps, or even the little side arms. Just a couple tips to give it a little bluegill look. When you see a lot of bluegill around these shallow docks, hanging out away from these docks, real skittish when you flip anything up there, definitely make your bait imitate a bluegill, because the bass are up in there feeding on them. So you can take your big swim baits, put a little chartreuse line down the side, maybe on the very tail tip of the tail, little chartreuse, just to look like a bluegill. But the brush hog will definitely catch some big fish this time of year, flipping around shallow docks. You know, another bait we've been throwing, it's been really productive, is a Crockett Gator 5/16 shaky pro head, rigged up with the Zoom mag trick worm and green pumpkin and something. Same deal. You might take and put a little chartreuse in the center around this, right where the hook goes. I like to put it there so the fish kind of hone in on that and pick that bait up where that hook's at. Sometimes you put it on that tail so it sticks up, or sometimes take and put that chartreuse tip up on your head so them fish, you know, they like to grab your bluegill and things by the head. Maybe they'll grab that bait on the way down by the head, increasing your odds and make sure that hook's in their mouth. So I kind of play with that a little bit on chartreuse, but that's just been extremely productive bait. Probably the easiest bait to throw if you don't fish a lot. You're coming out here, you're not sure what to fish. If you're not getting bites, just put you on a Crockett Gator shaky head and a worm of some sort and throw it anywhere. Throw it in brush, throw it shallow docks, throw it in docks that are in 10 foot of water. You can throw it in brush piles in 20 foot. That 5/16 is probably the best all-round size. I throw it on 15-pound test. Some guys throw it on heavier, some guys throw it on lighter. 15 I have found is the best for me, as far as letting that bait have its natural action, the fall rate, hooking up the fish and getting them in the boat. 15 is what I like. Line, I do get at, you know, what line I like. There's a lot of lines out there, and I'm sure a lot of them are good. I've thrown Berkeley 100% fluorocarbon for probably the last 25, 30 years. I have switched and tried other brands, and they just have not worked as effective or dependable as that Berkeley. You can buy it anywhere. It's kind of medium range price, a little on the high side. There's some out there that are really ridiculous with their prices, and I haven't seen the difference in quality or you know, how they act in the water for me to change. So 100% fluorocarbon. You can buy it at any good quality tackle stores. I think Walmart's even got it. Bass Pro. You can find it anywhere. That's another deal. I like if I run out or I get in a jam for whatever reason, you can go anywhere and buy that line. So, that's that's going to be my baits if I was fishing it. Um, I'm not going to say I guarantee it's going to be one of these, but I'll guarantee there will be more fish caught, where fish, money fish caught on these baits than any other baits that's going to be thrown. There'll be some oddballs out there, yes, but all in all, the majority of fish that are going to catch, that you're going to cast checks, are going to be on these baits here that I have thrown or shown you. So, I was going to tell you something else here, and I forget what it was. But, just prediction. I'm going to say to win this, I'm not sure I'm going to say a 7-pounder is going to win this. If it's a 7-pound fish wins this, I'm going to say there's one or two, maybe, if a 7-pounder is turned in to win the fall big bass. From what I've seen, I'm going to say it's going to be an upper 6, a heavy 6, right at 7 pounds, and it may even be 7 pounds. But it's not. We're just not seeing those big fish, and I haven't seen anything in the forecast that's going to tell me anything's really going to change. So that's my prediction. It'll take an upper 3, a low 4 to get a check. If you haven't went on Bass and Bob's website, he has all kind of incentives for different size fish, exact numbers, 7, 6, 5. I don't know what all he's got. I know there's several other. It's either E Factor or Trophy Properties, kind of the same. They're giving something. They usually give something for 316, I think it is, but verify all that. But there's a lot of different incentives out there, to catch money. I know there's an early bird. If you've got a shirt, there's just a lot of things, a lot of really cool deal chances and ways to win in this tournament. It comes here twice a year. Probably one of the coolest events of the year for your run-of-the-mill brand new anglers, intermediate to advanced anglers. Everybody has equal chance, equal opportunity to catch a fish that will win this. Because at any given time, a big fish can come up and grab your bait, whether it be early morning, midday, late in the afternoon, on any arm of the lake. So every arm in the lake right now is fishing the same. Last week before that tournament, big tournament, biggest one of the year for us, a 3-day event. I was not sure where I was going until almost the last day of practice, because I was catching them equally everywhere I went. So it kind of tells me this is one of the few times a year where the lake almost fishes the same everywhere. The water temp is hovering mid to upper 70s, and it's pretty much the same. Water clarity is pretty close to the same everywhere. You've got some areas where the plankton's a little more prominent and it's a little dingier, a little dirtier. I can't say the fishing's any better there or any worse there, but then you run into spots where that water's a little bit cleaner and clearer. We haven't had any rain. We're not getting any rain, so that's not going to change it. Boat traffic's slowing down a little bit. Unfortunately, this weekend's going to be really nice, so there'll be some big boats out still. It'll probably get rough out there. No reason to get in no big hurry. Just stay safe out there. Obviously, I know the rules are wearing your life jacket. Just use common sense, courtesy. Wouldn't bother me one bit to follow somebody right down the bank if they just fished it, pre-fishing. A friend of mine, Michael Carter, was here and he fished with me pre-fishing for last week, and several times I flipped a bait, whether it been a jig, and it happened with Topwater, several times at a target. Nothing. Move 5 foot, Michael flip in there and catch a good fish. So that tells me, almost immediately after I was in there, he caught a good solid fish. So just figure 15, 20 minutes after somebody, good likelihood that a big fish moves up. If you're fishing shallow, those fish don't necessarily hang in the same spot. They may kind of circle around. They may run shad to the other side of the dock, chase a bluegill to the other side of the dock, and you flip over, or the guy in front of you flips over to that fish on the other side. Give it 15 minutes, he comes back over to where he likes to post up, and now you flip in there. So that's just how quick it happens. So I really wouldn't let it bother me. There's going to be a lot of fishermen out there. You know that going into this. So just prepare yourself for that. Have a good time. And keep your baits wet. Keep it, fish a bait you're confident in, that you have confidence in when they're not biting real well and you're not catching a lot of fish, because it's probably going to be like that. So fish something you've got confidence in, obviously, because that's going to keep you motivated. It's also going to keep you in tune with your bait. If you're fishing, I said it a lot, if you're fishing something you don't have confidence in, you might as well just lay it down and sit down and drink a soda or something, because the odds of you being in tune with that bait and missing a bite, if you're not in tune with it or you don't have confidence, is pretty high compared to if you're flipping a bait or throwing a topwater or swim bait or something, and you're like, this is the cat, I'm going to catch him right here. You're probably going to catch that fish. You're not going to miss them, or you're not going to be sidetracked or daydreaming throwing something you don't have confidence in. So that's my deal on confidence bait. Always throw a confidence bait. That's why you hear a lot of guys, if fishing's tough and you're struggling, what does everyone always say? They don't say, I'm going to throw a bait I never throw, or I've never caught a fish on. They say, let me reach in my box, bring out my jig, my worms, my buzz baits, my things I've got a lot of confidence in, and let me throw those. Because that's how you change a day on one bite or two bites, is throwing something you have confidence in. So other than that, I know all of your local tackle stores are stocked up. On the west side here, you got Osage Outdoors up there in Laurie. You got Bryant's Osage Outdoors in Laurie. You got Jack's Hardware in Camdenton. You got 3 different Fitz Fishings, which are absolutely loaded up with all the tackle you could possibly want. You got the one in Lake Ozarks. You got the one in Camdenton, and the one that Denise works at. If you want to get a good insight on what's going on and actually go in, well, everyone's going to help you, but Denise is working the Camdenton store today and Friday, all day into the evenings until they don't have any more customers. She will personally walk you around the store, show you what we've been using, what she recommends. The same with any of these stores I mentioned. They all have good quality employees and fishermen that will lead you in the right direction. If you just come down here and you never fish, or you're not sure what to use, I have all the confidence in asking any of the employees, give me an idea, give me a clue, whether it be the line, a rod, and obviously the baits, where to throw them, how to work them, whatever. Don't be embarrassed or ashamed or whatever to ask, because that's what they're there for. That's what your good hometown quality tackle stores are all about. That's what separates them from some of your big, Bass Pros or Walmarts or Dick's. I'm not saying they don't have good quality employees, but a lot of times, someone from clothing comes over and works the fishing department. So you know what you're going to get. Compared to a local tackle store, these guys fish. They fish all the time. They're up to date with what everyone else is catching fish on. A lot of them are tournament anglers, so they know what to throw, not necessarily to catch fish, but to catch the big fish. So go in, ask them what's going on. Obviously, from St. Louis, I know you got Denny Dennis's up there. You got Dunn's up there. A lot of stores with good quality, same deal. Those are local stores, hometown stores, same deal. You get the employees are very knowledgeable. They know what they're talking about. You go in and ask them, tell them where you're fishing, what area, and they're going to point you in the right direction. So I know the restaurants down here are anxious for everyone to come down, see them, come eat with them. Quality, super great restaurants, great employees down here. You know, on the west, on the Osage Beach side, you know, probably Wobbly Boots. It's going to be right up there with top you know, recommendations. You know, obviously we got Bentleys and the Encore over there is excellent. Them are a little higher end, high dollar, great, excellent restaurants. But then you come over to the west side where that's where it's at. You know, we've got several over here, whether it be Branding Iron. You know, Branding Iron's great atmosphere, great people, easy in, out, big menu. Right down the road, CG's Mini Mart. They've got, if you're kind of like me, you want to go in, you want to go to one place, be prepared. You can go in there and get a breakfast sandwich. You can buy a lunch sandwich, which a lot of their lunch meat sandwiches are as good as any deli you're going to find for the day. Any drinks you want, ice, donuts, some of the best donuts. You know, you can ask them because I get them donuts all the time. Fill up with gas, easy in, easy out, good gas pumps. You know, so right there, CG, that's where we buy all of our gas. Never have any problems with gas. Don't have an issue with cheaper gas or any issues with gas, which is extremely important with these boats nowadays. You know, headed up through Lori, you've got the West Side Pub. I don't know if there's a better burger. The West Side Pub, little bitty place. As you come out of Sunrise Beach going to Lori on the left, really good atmosphere, great people, great waitresses, great place to pull in and out. I wouldn't pull a boat there. There's no boat parking, but if you drop your boat, you go in there. Chances are it's been around forever. Excellent food. I always say I'm going to pick Chances Are for waitresses, quality, portions, and price. They've got it all. You know, I really like Chances Are. Val's up there in Lori, great place. You got a coffee shop up there in Lori, Omega Coffee. Man, you just got Vinny's. Vinny's, it's called Little Vinny's. It's straight across. If you go up to Bryant's, Osage Outdoors, buy you some tackle, last minute tackle, register for the tournament. Right across the street is Little Vinny's. They've got some of the best food. We're really lucky on the west side. We've got a lot of restaurants that give you good portions. They're just like our tackle stores. They're hometown. Owners work there. A good quality, good service, good prices. So that's my deal here. You know, any issues, any problems, you come down, you're looking in the market for a new boat, good solid used boat. You have last minute service problems. Sport World Boat Center right there at Hurricane Deck Bridge. They handle all of our stuff. Denise and I's, all of our service. Any issues we have with anything, whether it be our Garmin's, our motors, our Mercury motors. You know, of course, I'm running a Vexus. Denise runs a Ranger. They've got a lot of new boats in there, new aluminum Vexus, new fiberglass Vexus. And Gary has a lot of good used boats. And they're really good quality, clean used boats at Gary's too. So if you're in the market to upgrade from where you're at, you don't necessarily want a new one, he's got a lot of good used ones in there. So, you know, what else? You got trolling motor issues. You got Reliable, Jeff at Reliable at 7 and 5, North 5 there, just out 7, maybe a quarter mile on the left. It's called Reliable Marine. He's your trolling motor guy. You know, for Minn Kota, and I think he might work on Motor Guide. Your Garmin, that's going to be Sport World Boat Center. Their guys are trained Garmin professional service guys. So, you know, I think tomorrow I'm probably going to go over to PB2 for a while, maybe hang out, talk with people, talk with a lot of the vendors, see what's going on, and just visit with people. So if you're down at the lake or you're coming down, run by PB2. If you see me, say hi. I appreciate, you know, I really enjoy talking to everybody. So hopefully this helps, guys. Just come down, put your head down, fish, have a good time with whoever you're coming down with, and good luck. catch you some fish, cash you some checks, have fun, be safe, and we'll see you in about a week or so.